Oh my gosh, you guys! Carson's had our tripod. I didn't realize how loose it was and how crooked. All right, guys. So you can see my chair. Yes, we've been in quarantine for 5 weeks, and we're back. This is what Facebook's gonna do to us today. This is the internet. But I finally got a real chair to sit at this silly desk, and hopefully we come out of quarantine soon. So who knows? But so we're gonna take this week, you guys. We've been talking all about the aspects of shift. This week we're gonna talk about relationships. So, hi Amanda, hi Haley. So, as you guys jump on, give us a hello. So as we go through this, we're gonna talk today just a little bit about our story and kind of where we came from and what we learned. And then we're gonna talk about how relationships work, going on with your relationship as you're in quarantine, why our children are in the room, etc. So anyway, so I'll start with our story. So Brandon and I met about 10 and a half years ago. If we want to talk about the story. So he was a personal trainer at Mountainside Fitness, which has been 17 different things since then. And I was a personal trainer doing in-home training, but I was in Longmont, so I would drive down and I would go to the gym and I would literally hang out like most of the day because I didn't have anywhere to go between clients. So why our internet is so amazing. All right, so what part of the story do you want to tell?
So I think just kind of a little backstory. For Court, she was previously married and was divorced. She went through her own self-discovery. She got married very young, right? Like, how old were you when you got married? 22, right? Like, so she went through, she had kind of the opposite experience I did in college as far as like going through as fast as possible and getting into a career, getting to life, getting into checking all the boxes that I think most of us are taught that that's what we should do, right?
I was in the hurry up and get there mode. So I graduated college in 3.5 years. I met my ex-husband, who we're still friends. I met him my freshman year, got out early, graduated early with honors, got engaged, bought a house, started trying to have kids, like all the things, right? Like, let's just check off the boxes and make sure we get there. And my body, this goes into my eating disorder story, but like my body was not ready to have kids, and we went through all the treatment and I lost myself. And long story short, I woke up one day and I was like, this is not where I want to be. And made the choice to get a divorce, which was really hard because that was one of my values, was like, you commit to something and you say you're going to be there. And then I had to sort of go back and like live my 20s when I was like 27.
And so, obviously she went through a very committed relationship, and then that ended and had her own time of independence and everything else. And then the same part on me, I was in a relationship from the time I was very young at 15 all the way through when I was 22, and going through a lot of different phases of, my teens into early college, into my basically last year of college. And, I created a lot of identities around that, created a lot of securities around that. And, when that relationship ended, and, it taught me a lot. Like, it still was, looking back, of like one of the hardest, if not the hardest experience I can recall in my life, especially during that time frame. I lost my grandpa, like I wasn't playing football anymore. Everything kind of came to a head front all at once. And yet again, it's just like everything we talk about, everything evolves around itself, but I think for both of us, right, like we went through that set, and then we went through a long period of being single and being able to discover ourselves. And I think for both of us is when we first met each other, it was through a long process for both of us to be able to come to the final understanding that, if I don't get into a relationship, I'm okay, right? Because I think that's the part that we fall into a lot as, with I've had friends that do that, of like, all I want, because we did that on our like third or fourth date with some friends that we went out with, of like, like we pretend that we got engaged and we pretend we got married, or we're going to get married. And like, we were with the group of girls that I grew up with, we were friends from the time we were in high school and everything else. And they were like super cool to her, but then all of a sudden they realized that we were getting engaged, and like immediately flipped the switch of like, totally edgy, totally standoffish, totally kind of almost aggressive, of like, you're great, but I'm just super jealous right now, right? And it wasn't the fact that they wanted to marry me. It was more on the side of like, I need that in my life, right? I need that to validate that I'm worthy of somebody else's love, that because I'm not being engaged to, or somebody else isn't here to validate me, that I'm not worthy, and i.e. means I'm not in a relationship, right? And so I think we see that for a lot of people, and that's what we did for, after I got out of my relationship, it was searching for that feeling, right? It was searching for that, oh, I need somebody else to make me whole, right? And so for me, like, I went through a long phase, like I went through a lot of phases of like making sure that I was very non-committal, right? A lot of it probably had to do with the amount of pain and everything else I associated with being in a relationship because it potentially ends, right? And so I didn't deal with a lot of drama. I didn't deal with a lot of things, right? If there was any signs or signals of like this isn't gonna work, I was like, peace, I'm going out with my friends, I'm gonna do something else. And that didn't usually seem to go over very well. And so when Courtney and I met, I think we both can probably agree that we were both in a state of, you know what, I'm okay with me. I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. The first thing she said when we started going out was, the piece of advice that she heard was run your race, run your journey, or you say it better than I do, but essentially run your race and then look around you to see who's running next to you.
I was trying to make my chair higher. And then I'm too low. The quote was, and I heard it in church, it was like, run your race, get on your path, and once you've been on it and you know who you are, then look to your side and see who's there. And I know for me, like, I definitely did more than Brandon did after I got divorced, because I was still searching for that, because I'd literally, like, never been single. And so, I told the story the other day that when I got divorced, I literally, like, bought a lifted truck, bought a snowmobile, got a dog, and started riding. And that was my thing. And I had one winter where I was 100% single, and I went to the mountains every single weekend. And that was like my self-discovery, right? Like, I drove to Steamboat for hours and really realized kind of who I was and where I wanted to go. And I think there's an interesting process of figuring out who you are when you're by yourself, right? And I started to really embrace, like, I'm a red, what I like to do, and this is actually like what I want to do in my life. And I ended up after that, like, leaving my parents' business and deciding that I was going to take on a career in fitness and try to figure out how to make it work and be on my own and all of that stuff. And when we met, it was almost so easy, because we had the same schedule, we had the same passions, we had all of those things, but we wouldn't have known that unless we both had the time to, we love our internet, actually discover who we were, and then we could decide who we were in a relationship.
And so I think that's the part I'll start off with you guys is first, if you are in that scenario where you're searching and you're looking for that external reason or that external person, whether that's romantic, whether that's in business, whether that's a colleague, whatever it may be, to essentially validate and make you whole, essentially a problem there. And it's understanding that, love and relationships, yet again, romantic, professional, whatever it may be, is essentially filling our cups, right? Like, we're filling our tanks of love, of joy, of contribution, of all these things. And if I'm not able to fill them myself because I'm not...
All right,
we're back? Okay. If I'm not okay with who I am, that other person is never going to be able to fill my bucket and fill my cups, fill my tank, whatever you want to call it. They're not going to do that, right? And so it's understanding that whatever I receive from her is just icing on top of the cake, right? And I think that's why we've been going through all of these episodes up to this point, is to better understand of how do we go about better filling our own tank. And so that time when we do have a relationship that we want to pour into, we can pour from a full cup because ours is full.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing about anything in life is, like, you have to take care of you. Like, it may sound selfish, but if you really want to step into the best version of yourself,